This is the Daily Market Rundown live from the Tradelo Trading floor. It's January the 28th and some highlights from today's show. NVDA dropped 17% on the day, AI bets are now at risk, and key earnings are coming into play. Hello traders, and welcome to the Daily Market Rundown. My name is Brian Barrett, and let's get stuck straight into it. Yesterday was a very interesting day. There are a number of things to talk about happening in the European session, so let's get stuck into it. What you will note, of course, is DAX is now back up at that record highs, very much shrugging off the entire move that we saw yesterday. We of course had a little bit of movement in some of the dollar pairs overnight as a result of Trump coming and saying, well look, we do want to impose this 2.5% tariff across the board at a minimum. So again, still sort of seeing this backwards and forwards on the tariff trade front. This was very similar in 2016. We kind of went back forward. The key thing to take away is that the markets will be most sensitive to the rhetoric initially, and then of course they start to get a little bit bored of it. Okay, what that means, of course, yes, euro down 0.6 on the day, pound down 0.5. This is probably less to do with, of course, the tariff comments and a lot more to do, of course, with what the dollar is doing. Like I said last week, we ran into some key resistance in a number of markets against the dollar, and it was, of course, an opportunity to start building those long positions in the dollar. Keep in mind, the whole street wants dollar this year. Why? Well, because the United States of America is where everyone wants to invest their money right now. Let's turn our attention and get to one of our first topics and talk a little bit about, of course, TikTok. This is something that the US government is now putting up for sale. They're engaging with a number of people, including, of course, Elon Musk. And the key takeaway is that Microsoft seems to be sort of also putting their hand up to say, well, we want the business. For obvious reasons, it is a fantastic asset, whoever owns it. Why? Well, look, TikTok will have exposure to millions of viewers. And that means, of course, if you look at what Musk has done with Twitter, it's become very much a platform to communicate to the masses about what you want to do and how you want to steer things. And so Microsoft seems to be following that approach, looking to acquire TikTok. Interesting one, nothing really market moving, not so much going to do anything for the markets, but will be a very good asset for Microsoft. And of course, if you're obviously owning Microsoft as a stock, they do have a number of fantastic assets, including this one, should they acquire it. Now, let's turn our attention and talk AI, because that's what we're all here for. The theme, the narrative, everything is now squarely focused on AI. Now, I received a number of calls and messages yesterday sort of saying to me, look, where does this go? Everyone's saying that this is actually going to be quite positive, what DeepSeek is doing, because there's this theory that if something becomes really cheap, ultimately everyone builds out and everyone adopts, and therefore we need the infrastructure. Okay. Now, yes, noted in terms of the theory, but in practice, let's take a massive step back and just discuss this. Over the course of since November 2022, when ChatGPT was rolled out, we've effectively had $10 trillion of value created. $10 trillion. Think about that as a number. $10 trillion. That's bigger than many economies around the world. Okay? We've created this value based on this proposition that AI is going to change the future. Okay? Alongside that, moreover, we've had billions. I think this year alone, just this year, the Mag 7 is going to invest $200 billion into rolling out infrastructure for AI. Now, AI is undoubtedly the future. That we know, that we cannot challenge. But importantly, we also have to understand that valuations at some point become stretched. And in order to justify that valuation, you actually have to deliver some earnings against it. Okay, and this is very, very important to understand, because if you invest, or if you think that these companies are worth 10 trillion more, guess what? They need to start producing some earnings to justify that $10 trillion valuation increase. And this is the key to the whole, how I think this is going to unravel and how I think people are missing what we actually heard yesterday. DeepSeek, ultimately, they probably spent a hell of a lot more than $6 million. Okay, but what matters, and this is the takeaway, DeepSeek is saying to the market that we will supply this product, we will give AI to the market at 1/40th of the price of US companies. Now you tell me, if you're going to roll out a product to billions of people around the world, are they going to pay 40 times more for the same product? No, they will not. And this is the problem that people don't understand. that $10 trillion valuation is based on future earnings that the Mag 7 is going to earn. How the heck are the Mag 7 going to earn all those earnings if someone in China is offering it at a fraction of the cost? That's where all of this becomes problematic, is that how are they going to fight DeepSeek at that pricing? Now we know, look at OpenAI. They told us, Sam Altman came out like 2-3 weeks ago and said, look, we are losing billions on rolling out this AI. It's costing us money because we've got a very, very low subscription fee. Now all of a sudden someone's saying they can do it 1/40 of the subscription fee. What is OpenAI's response to that? How do they compete? They got two choices. If they want any kind of market share and they want to actually partake in this, they will have to drop their price. Now the question is, if they drop their price, when are those earnings going to come that the market has priced the 10 trillion off? When are we going to get those earnings? Well, if you cast your minds back to June last year, Google came out, the CEO told us, we will not be seeing earnings as soon as we expected off of AI. It's going to take longer to get earnings. That was last year. Google dropped 25% as a result of that comment. What do you think is going to happen now this time around? Well, guess what? Those earnings are now not coming anytime soon at all. And this is what's going to create, over the course of the next couple of weeks, a significant repricing for a lot of the Mag 7. It's got to do with this idea that earnings are too rich. Okay, now it's not to say that this 10 trillion won't be the case 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Of course it will be. Okay, but that idea of, because it's cheap, everyone will build on top of it, that doesn't happen overnight. Okay, that happens over the course of the next couple of years, over a cycle. And that's important to understand. And that's why I think a correction's coming in. And if you're bullish and you're buying into this notion that, it's okay, NVDA loses, 650 billion in one day and you think that's okay and not a problem, well, you need to get your head checked. Okay, why? And this is something I want to stress. 650 billion of paper wealth was erased yesterday. What does that mean? Well, everyone's looking at their 501k this morning because everyone is invested in NVIDIA. And guess what? Their 501ks are not looking so great as they were a day before. We've lost 650 billion, guys. People are poorer. Now we know the one thing keeping this US economy up is consumption. Now if all of a sudden the hit from this NVIDIA doesn't rebound, if we don't get NVIDIA claiming back that 650 billion, that paper loss is going to impact at some point. It doesn't just evaporate from nowhere. People take risk based on this paper wealth. Okay, and that's why someone asked a question yesterday, how is Bitcoin related to NVIDIA? Well, it's very simple. If I'm sitting on millions in paper wealth from NVIDIA, guess what? I'm going to reinvest that into something. And if something like Bitcoin can give me 50, 100% returns, why wouldn't I allocate some of that paper wealth? All right? So very, very important. I want to stress there's a number of moving parts, and I'm quite passionate about this because I see a lot of people just shrugging off yesterday. Do not shrug off yesterday. Yes, we had a significant rally of 500 points, from 10 a.m. in the European session, and that was pretty much the low point of the day. But the reality is we lost 650 billion in paper wealth in NVIDIA yesterday. DeepSeek is challenging and saying we will provide this product at 1/40th of the price that the Mag 7's doing it at. We have an AI problem. Do not shrug it off because you will miss out what I think is going to be a significant tradable opportunity this year. Okay, there you have it. Now you understand ultimately the conundrum that's being faced. Now, a couple of things I just want to point out. Like I said, analysts are expecting 250 billion of capex expenditure this year. Okay, if Microsoft and Apple and Meta and Tesla and all of the likes are going to come out and spend 250 billion of capex this year, I would love to be a fly on the wall listening to those CEOs explaining to their investors why the heck are they going to spend that amount of money when there's this very real risk that China can in fact produce this product at a fraction of the cost. Okay, so what that means for all of you as traders, guess what? Tomorrow night, when earnings come out and we've got Microsoft talking and they tell us, look, what are you guys, the CEO is going to be pegged down. What are you going to do? Is this threat real from China? Listen very closely. Any hint at a pullback on capex expenditure is effectively the Mag 7 telling you that they have got a problem, which is they've overinvested and they're not going to get earnings anytime soon. Learn to read between the lines. If I tell you I'm not going to spend that 50 billion this year because I want to pause to reflect, What I'm telling you is that is going to be scrapped, or at least it's going to be heavily reduced, because we perhaps have oversupplied capacity in the near term. Okay, it's not that they won't build that capex. They just, rather than spending it all this year, they're perhaps going to spend it over the next 2, 3, 4 years as we understand exactly how much capacity we need. Listen carefully. It will be a golden opportunity. If they have any hesitation around rolling out that capex this year, bye-bye Mag 7. We are talking about a significant correction coming to the markets. We'll get to the charts in a minute. Okay. And then, yeah, there's the comment about OpenAI producing the exact same model at 40 times, or at 1/40th of the price. Okay, do not shrug that off. OpenAI is losing millions and millions every single day running ChatGPT because ultimately, one, they have overinvested in capacity, and of course, they've spent a lot on rolling out the AI. Now, someone says, "Hey, we're going to do a 1/40th of the price." OpenAI is dead in the water. Okay, now a few other things just to point out. And this is key to all of it, and this is why I'm so bearish and why I think a significant move is incoming. If you look at last year's return, more than half of that 25% return was due to Mag 7. Half of it. Okay? And all of that, like I said, is based on that increase in valuation of about 10 trillion on the Mag 7. Now, very, very importantly, because of how built up this position is, how everyone is long the Mag 7. It's such a concentrated position. No one's trading anything else other than the Mag 7. The result is that 1/3 of the S&P, or about 45% of the NASDAQ, is made up of the Mag 7. 45%. What that means is, if Mag 7 drops, NASDAQ, you think 1,000-point move is big? Times that by 5, times that by 10. That's what's incoming should the Mag 7 start to offer. Okay, yesterday, they got away with it. Right? There was this sort of rotation. That was the key yesterday. There was a massive rotation. If you saw in the morning, I posted in the Discord channel, look at the rotation. They're moving out of tech into Russell. Okay, but the reality is a rotation trade of this magnitude can only last so long as there's something to rotate into. Now, if all of a sudden the Mag 7's all dropping, what are you going to rotate into? It's simple. You're going to rotate into cash, and they're all going to do it at the same time. There's going to be nothing to buy because it's all going to be selling off. Okay? And that was another key thing yesterday. I pointed this out. The bonds did not feel like going bid yesterday. It was the massive clue. No one wanted to buy bonds, and I was scratching my head going, huh? NASDAQ's down 1,000 points, and the 10-year can barely get up 10 basis points in the day. That's not exactly a risk-off move. What's a risk-off move is 10 years up 25 basis points because the NASDAQ is down 1,000 points. Okay, that's a risk-off move. Now, if the Mag 7 is going to genuinely sell off, guess what? 10-year is going to very quickly move its way back to 4%. Very quickly. Why? Markets are going to price in not just cuts, but a recession. If the Mag 7 falls, the US equity market falls, and guess what? The US economy is going to fall. Why? Because the only thing keeping us up is consumers at the end of the day. They're still happily spending. Why? Because 501ks are at record highs. Property markets are at record highs. All right. That's the key takeaway. I've ranted on enough. Let's get to the charts. 2 key charts in the video. There it is. Like I said, 17% correction. You can think of it like you want, but I'm sorry. A 700 billion evaluation drop is something you do not take lightheartedly. Do not ignore that. It's money gone, evaporated. Now, the key takeaway is, are we going to extend that low today? Right? Perhaps we do, perhaps we don't. I suspect you get some form of consolidation. We're gapping up, going to open up about 3.5% on the open. Watch, I suspect we trade back to unchanged. Why? Because there's still so many people that are long NVDA. And guess what? Yesterday was a case of shoot first, ask questions later. Everyone shot. Okay, we were down 17% on the day. Gapped, moved lower, down 17%. Right? Which means that everyone that wanted out, they wanted to bail, they bailed. The question now is, who's going to stand in the way and start buying this? Well, if you have a crystal ball and you look at it and you say, well, NVIDIA, ultimately, we're going to need all that infrastructure. All the Mag 7 are definitely going to roll out that 250 billion in capex expenditure. Well, then fine, go buy NVIDIA. By all means, if you have a guarantee that they are going to spend that 250 billion this year and next year and the year after, fine, NVIDIA is a good buy. I get that. But are you sure they're all going to spend that capex expenditure? Okay, that's the question mark. Smart money does not take random gambles. Smart money looks at it and says, well, hang on a sec. If I'm going to be smart here, I'm going to wait for a better understanding as to if that capex is going to be spent or not. And if that capex doesn't get spent, what do you think happens to NVIDIA over the earnings call tomorrow night? Bye-bye. We're going down to 100. And then we're probably going to drop to 90. We're just going to keep removing valuation of NVIDIA until such a point that someone steps in and says, well, look, at this price point, at this valuation, at this expectation of what the Mag 7 is going to spend in the next X amount of years, it makes sense to buy it at this price. Now, I'm sorry. I'm not the smartest cat on the street. I'm not a fundamental analyst, and I suspect none of you listening to this are. So don't think you know better than the people that spend all their hours of the day understanding this, interpreting this, knowing what the Mag 7 are going to do. Because the reality is, none of us know what they're going to do. But what I can tell you is, everyone is uncertain right now. Okay? Very few people have got any kind of understanding as to how the Mag 7 are going to respond to this. Don't think you know better. Final chart of the day. Let's talk a little bit about Microsoft. Second to NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the most sensitive to this theme. Okay, for obvious reasons, they are the ones at the forefront of rolling out the infrastructure spend. Second to that will be Microsoft. Why? It's a double whammy, of course. They've got a massive investment in OpenAI. They are 49% shareholder. I think they paid, 14, 17 billion, something like that for it. Currently, in the private market, it's valued around 180 billion. Give a couple of billion here and there, okay? The point is if all of a sudden OpenAI is in trouble because they have to price their model differently at 1/40th of the price, and in actual fact there's better models out there, well, what is that valuation now worth? Again, who knows? We can all guess at it, but I can promise you it's less than 100 billion. Okay, the point is that Microsoft owns that asset, and guess what? Microsoft's valuation over the course of, Q1, it's up 100%. It's doubled on what? On the expectation that OpenAI is the future. Okay, that future's being called into question. Microsoft's got some fantastic levels as well. Okay, a series of higher lows there. If you're going to take any trade, and this is the trade I've put on, go buy some puts in Microsoft. That's the key play, and buy them well ahead of that earnings call. Right? Because if all of a sudden they're going to reduce capex, bye-bye 400, bye-bye 390. We are going to correct in this market, and it's going to be violent, it's going to be quick. And you know what? You're not going to get a golden opportunity like you got on Friday when, in actual fact, all this DeepSeek stuff came out. Okay, that's a wrap for today. That's all you need to know. It's all about AI. The theme is now AI. The narrative is now AI. There's nothing else that really matters, okay? Pay close attention to it. Draw what you want from this, okay? I'm not an expert. I'm a trader. I see things in a certain way. I have an opinion about certain things, but this is how I see it. Do not discount a 700 billion loss, paper wealth. Don't discount it, okay? Moreover, don't think you're smart. You're not. None of us are smart. We just have to trade what we see. There were some key clues yesterday, and in actual fact, this is my final chart. VIX was a key clue. Okay, why the heck did VIX not manage to get up above those 20s again? In actual fact, from 10 a.m. when we made that final drop in the NASDAQ, that was the peak. Okay, what this tells me is that there is no real fear yet. No one's hedged. We're pretty much back to that moving average, that 10-day moving average around 17. Okay, now that's a double-edged sword. Of course, I have to be objective as a trader. I'm bearish as hell, but I want to be seeing that VIX move up the page. Okay, only if that VIX moves up the page above 20 are we actually going to get this move I'm talking about. If all of a sudden today we drop and we trade back down to 17 or even below, guess what? S&P is going back to record highs pretty damn fast. I'm not going to sit there selling it like an idiot. Okay, I've got to be objective as well as a trader, and that's the key. You've always got to have a hypothesis, lean on certain markets to give you the clue. The VIX will give you the clue. We close higher today. Okay, I can promise you it's all going to be about what happens on that earnings call. We close above 20 at some point, all bets are off. Okay, we will have a significant correction in the markets, and you need to be prepared for that. Okay, any other questions? Of course, post them in the chat box. Final word on volatility. It's a bit volatile out there. Okay, there's some significant moves coming in, so just make sure you trade accordingly. Like I said, don't be courageous. Now's not the time. Wait for those opportunities. They will come. Earnings calls tomorrow are going to be absolutely significant. One final note, we have got the FOMC rundown tonight. You're all invited, of course. The link is in the Discord channel, so just make sure that you do come and join in that FOMC meeting. We'll talk about the Fed. We'll talk all things Fed. We'll talk about some of the opportunity scope of that as well. Okay, if there are any other questions, post them in the Discord channel, and I'll happily answer them for you. Otherwise, good luck out there. Manage that risk. Go make some money.